Security! Get this crazy old woman out of here! My daughter Sandra's voice pierced through the Phoenix Country Club's ballroom as she lunged toward me, her face twisted with rage. But it was too late. I had already handed the envelope to Mr. Carter, my attorney, right there in front of 200 wedding guests in their designer gowns and $1,000 suits. The string quartet had stopped mid-note. Champagne glasses froze halfway to lips. Even the photographer lowered his camera, sensing he was witnessing something that would destroy this family forever. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Carter's voice boomed across the silent ballroom. I have just received Mrs. Linda Watson's new last will and testament. As of this moment, it is legally binding and witnessed by everyone present. My granddaughter Olivia, the bride, stood frozen in her $8,000 wedding dress, tears streaming down her face. "Grandma, what's happening?" she whispered. I looked directly at Sandra, who had forbidden me from attending my own granddaughter's wedding because I would embarrass the family in front of Phoenix's elite. Her husband, Paul, was already pulling out his phone, probably calling their lawyer, his hands shaking so badly he could barely dial. "You wanted a memorable wedding, sweetheart," I said, my voice steady as steel. "Well, congratulations. No one here will ever forget the day you lost a $4 million inheritance in front of half of Arizona's high society." The gasps echoed through the ballroom like thunder. Someone's champagne flute shattered on the marble floor. A woman at table 6 audibly whispered, $4 million? My name is Linda Watson. I'm 77 years old, a retired teacher from Tucson who spent 50 years saving every penny, living in the same small house, driving the same beat-up Honda, all so I could leave something meaningful to my family. But 6 weeks ago, I discovered that the people I had sacrificed everything for considered me nothing more than an embarrassment to be hidden away when it mattered most. 6 weeks earlier, I was hunched over my ancient sewing machine in my sweltering Tucson trailer, the desert wind rattling my thin walls as I worked on a lavender dress from Goodwill. It was 115 degrees outside, another brutal Arizona summer, and my broken air conditioner left me gasping in the heat. But I didn't care. This dress was for Olivia's wedding, and I was determined to look presentable for the most important day of my granddaughter's life. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. "Linda, did you see Sandra's Facebook post about the wedding venue? Looks expensive." My heart stopped. Wedding venue? I scrambled to my laptop, my arthritic fingers shaking as I logged into Facebook. There it was, Sandra's post showing the Phoenix Country Club's Crystal Ballroom with the caption, "Final head count confirmed for our intimate family celebration. Can't wait for this perfect day." Intimate family celebration, but I hadn't received an invitation. I called Sandra immediately, my voice cracking in the desert heat. "Honey, I saw your post about the venue. When should I arrive on Saturday?" The silence on the other end lasted forever. Cars whooshed by on Interstate 10 outside my window. A coyote howled somewhere in the Sonoran Desert. Finally, Sandra's voice came through, cold as an Arctic wind. "Mom, we need to talk." But what she said next would haunt me for the rest of my life. For 52 years, I had taught 8th grade at Desert View Middle School, saving every penny of my $32,000 salary. I lived in this same double-wide trailer, drove the same rusted Honda, ate the same canned soup dinners, all so I could leave my family something meaningful when I was gone. I had already given Sandra $80,000 for her house down payment. I paid for Olivia's private school tuition, $15,000 a year, for 6 years. When Sandra's real estate business nearly went bankrupt in 2019, I quietly liquidated my teacher's retirement fund to save her from foreclosure. When Paul needed surgery last year, I covered the $12,000 his insurance wouldn't pay. $4 million. That's what I had accumulated over 5 decades of sacrifice, living like a pauper so my family could live like royalty in their Scottsdale mansion with the infinity pool and the Tesla in the driveway. "You can't come to the wedding, Mom," Sandra said, her words cutting through me like broken glass. The Ashford family, Marcus's parents, their Phoenix Society, old money. They'll be judging everything, and honestly, you'll embarrass us. The phone slipped from my trembling hands. Outside, a monsoon storm was building over the Superstition Mountains, and thunder rolled across the desert like the sound of my heart breaking. But what happened in the next 30 seconds would change everything forever. Because in those next 30 seconds, I heard something that would destroy my faith in family forever. Sandra hadn't hung up the phone properly. I could hear her talking to someone in the background. Paul's voice, muffled but clear enough. "Is she buying it?" he asked. "Good. The last thing we need is your trailer trash mother showing up and ruining Olivia's chance with the Ashfords." My blood turned to ice in that 115-degree heat. Trailer trash mother. "She's so clueless," Sandra laughed, and I heard the sound of ice clinking in a glass, probably her afternoon martini by their infinity pool. "She actually thinks we care about her feelings. Paul, we just need to keep her happy until after the wedding. Marcus's family is worth $50 million. If his parents see her in that pathetic Goodwill dress, talking about her teaching days, they'll think Olivia comes from poverty." "What about her will?" Paul's voice was clearer now. "Didn't she mention having $4 million saved up?" "Oh, that old bat will leave it all to us anyway. She's obsessed with family legacy. We just need to play nice until she croaks, then we'll have everything, her money and the Ashford connection." The phone went dead. Thunder crashed over the Superstition Mountains, and my trailer shook like it might blow away in the wind. But I sat perfectly still, my hands gripping the edge of my rickety kitchen table, processing what I had just heard. Trailer trash mother, old bat, play nice until she croaks. 52 years of teaching. 52 years of living on canned soup and driving a rusted Honda. 52 years of giving them everything while I wore the same 3 dresses, rotated through the week. And this was how they saw me. But here's what Sandra and Paul didn't know about their clueless old bat. I might have been a small-town teacher, but I had a master's degree in English literature and a mind sharp enough to recognize manipulation when I heard it. More importantly, I had spent 5 decades watching teenagers lie, cheat, and scheme, and I had learned to see through every trick in the book. I walked to my bedroom and pulled out the manila folder I kept hidden behind my winter coats. Inside were documents Sandra had never seen. Investment statements, property deeds, insurance policies. While she assumed I was just a poor teacher scraping by, I had been quietly building an empire through careful investments and frugal living. The $4 million wasn't just sitting in a savings account. I owned 3 rental properties in Tucson's historic district, a portfolio of blue chip stocks, and municipal bonds that had been growing steadily for decades. Sandra had no idea that her trailer trash mother was worth more than most of Phoenix's so-called elite. I opened my laptop and started typing. Not a tearful email begging for inclusion. Not a hurt message asking why they would treat me this way. Instead, I began researching the Ashford family. Marcus's parents, who were supposedly worth $50 million. What I found made me smile for the first time in weeks. Marcus Ashford Sr. was indeed wealthy. New money from a tech startup he'd sold 5 years ago. But according to Phoenix Business Journal's recent article, he was also known for his charitable work with underprivileged schools and his deep respect for educators. His own mother had been a public school teacher in rural Ohio before he made his fortune. Sandra and Paul had no idea they were about to insult the very profession that Marcus's family held sacred. I picked up my phone and called information. Phoenix Country Club, please. Good afternoon, Phoenix Country Club. This is Jennifer. Hello, dear. This is Linda Watson. I believe you're hosting my granddaughter's wedding this Saturday. Olivia Chen and Marcus Ashford. Oh, yes, Mrs. Watson. The Ashford celebration. How can I help you? I was wondering if you could tell me what time the ceremony begins. I seem to have misplaced my invitation. There was a pause. I'm so sorry, but I don't see your name on the guest list. Would you like me to check with the event coordinator? No, dear, that won't be necessary. But I do have one question. Will the ceremony be public or is it a private event? The ceremony is in our main ballroom, which is technically a public space during events. Anyone can enter the club during business hours. Thank you, Jennifer. You've been very helpful. I hung up and looked at my reflection in the bedroom mirror. My silver hair needed touching up. My hands were spotted with age. My clothes came from thrift stores. But my eyes still burned with the fire of a woman who had spent 50 years dealing with bullies and brats. Sandra wanted to protect her precious social standing. She wanted to hide her embarrassing mother from Phoenix society. Well, she was about to learn that sometimes the people you underestimate are the ones who can destroy you completely. The next morning, I drove my rusted Honda through Scottsdale's pristine neighborhoods, past million-dollar homes with manicured lawns that defied the desert heat. I parked across from Sandra's house and watched as a parade of vendors arrived. Florists carrying white orchids, caterers unloading silver platters, a woman in a designer suit directing traffic with military precision. This was the wedding planning I had been excluded from. The family meetings I wasn't invited to. The decisions made without the woman who had funded half of their lifestyle. I was about to leave when I saw Olivia's car pull into the driveway. My heart ached watching my granddaughter step out, looking exhausted and stressed. She glanced toward my car, and for a moment, our eyes met through the tinted windshield. Her face crumpled, and she started walking toward me. But Sandra appeared at the front door like a guardian blocking paradise. Olivia, we have dress fittings in 20 minutes. Get inside now. Olivia looked back at my car one more time, then disappeared into the house. I sat there for another hour, watching designer-clad women come and go, each carrying pieces of the wedding I would never see. That afternoon, my phone rang. Sandra's name on the caller ID. Mom, we need to talk about Saturday. I'm listening. Look, I know you're hurt, but this isn't personal. The Ashfords are very particular about appearances. Marcus's mother specifically asked about family backgrounds. If she sees you there, dress like... Sandra paused, searching for diplomatic words. Like what, Sandra? Like a retired teacher who spent 50 years educating children? Mom, don't be dramatic. You know what I mean. These people judge everything: your clothes, your car, where you live. They'll think Olivia isn't suitable for their son. I let the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. So, what exactly are you asking me to do? Stay home on Saturday. We'll have a small family dinner the following week to celebrate. Just the four of us. You can give Olivia her gift then, and we'll take pictures. It'll be much more meaningful than being lost in a crowd of strangers. A small family dinner after they had secured their connection to Phoenix's elite, after the important people had gone home, after I was no longer a liability to their social climbing. And if I refuse? Sandra's voice turned cold. Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. This wedding is the most important day of Olivia's life. Don't ruin it because of your pride. My pride, as if wanting to attend my only granddaughter's wedding was vanity rather than love. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. But I had already made my decision. I spent the rest of the week not planning what to wear to a wedding I wasn't invited to, but researching everything I could about the Ashford family, the Phoenix Country Club, and exactly how to make an entrance that would be remembered by everyone present. I also made an appointment with Mr. Carter, my attorney. Linda, he said when I walked into his downtown office Thursday morning, you sounded urgent on the phone. Is everything all right? I need to make some changes to my will, Harold. Significant changes. Of course. What did you have in mind? I pulled out the folder I had prepared, containing detailed financial statements and a new beneficiary list that would shock anyone who knew my family. I want to remove Sandra and Paul completely. Everything goes to educational charities, with a special provision for Olivia if she meets certain conditions. Harold's eyebrows rose. This is a substantial estate, Linda. Are you certain about disinheriting your daughter? Harold, some people spend their whole lives proving they don't deserve the gifts they've been given. Sandra and Paul have provided me with overwhelming evidence that they view me as nothing more than an ATM machine with an expiration date. What about Olivia? Olivia gets everything if she maintains a relationship with me independent of her parents' influence. If she allows them to control our relationship, she gets nothing as well. Harold began drafting the new will immediately. By Friday afternoon, it was complete, legally binding, and ready to be executed. Saturday morning, I put on my best dress, not the Goodwill lavender one I had been altering, but a navy blue suit I had owned for 20 years and saved for special occasions. I did my hair, applied lipstick for the first time in months, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like exactly what I was, a dignified woman who had spent her life in service to others, now preparing to teach the most important lesson of her career. Some lessons I had learned can only be taught through consequences. The Phoenix Country Club's parking lot was filled with luxury cars, Mercedes, BMWs, and Teslas, gleaming in the afternoon sun. I parked my beat-up Honda between a Porsche and a Bentley, and I could practically feel the judgment radiating from the valet attendants. But I walked through those front doors with my head held high, Mr. Carter beside me, carrying the manila envelope that would change everything. The lobby was buzzing with pre-ceremony energy, women in designer dresses checking their makeup, men in $1,000 suits adjusting their ties. Mrs. Watson, the hostess approached nervously, I don't believe you're on our guest list for the Ashford celebration. I'm the bride's grandmother, I said simply. I believe that gives me certain rights. Before she could respond, I heard Sandra's voice from across the lobby. What the hell is she doing here? The conversation around us dropped to whispers as Sandra stormed across the marble floor in her champagne-colored Mother of the Bride dress, her face flushed with rage and panic. Paul followed behind her, his expression deadly. Mom, you cannot be here. We discussed this. Actually, we didn't discuss anything. You made a unilateral decision to exclude me from my granddaughter's wedding. I've decided not to accept that decision. Security, Sandra hissed, but several guests had already turned to stare. The Ashfords themselves, an elegant couple in their 60s, were watching from near the ballroom entrance, clearly intrigued by the drama unfolding. Is there a problem here? Marcus Ashford Sr. approached, his voice kind, but concerned. I'm the groom's father. Sandra's face went white. This was exactly the scene she had wanted to avoid. Her trailer trash mother causing a spectacle in front of Phoenix society. Mr. Ashford, I extended my hand with perfect composure. I'm Linda Watson, Olivia's grandmother. I taught middle school English for 52 years here in Arizona. His entire demeanor changed. A teacher? How wonderful! My own mother taught fourth grade in rural Ohio for 30 years. Teachers are the backbone of our society. He turned to Sandra with confusion. Why wouldn't Olivia's grandmother be invited to the wedding? Sandra opened and closed her mouth like a fish drowning in air. Paul grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away from the growing crowd of onlookers. There seems to be some family tension, Mrs. Ashford observed, her sharp eyes taking in Sandra's obvious discomfort and my calm dignity. Indeed there is, I said. You see, my daughter was concerned that I might embarrass the family in front of distinguished guests like yourselves. She felt my background as a public school teacher, and my modest lifestyle might reflect poorly on Olivia. The silence that followed was deafening. Mr. Ashford's expression hardened. I'm sorry, but did you just say your daughter was ashamed of your career as an educator? Dad, please, let's not make a scene. Marcus Jr. appeared, looking mortified as he recognized his new in-laws were imploding in front of half of Phoenix's elite. But it was too late. The damage was done. Mrs. Ashford's voice carried clearly across the lobby. Richard, did we just witness someone disrespecting a retired teacher at their own granddaughter's wedding? Phones were coming out. People were recording. Sandra's worst nightmare was unfolding in real time. Social media documentation of her public humiliation. Please, Sandra whispered, can we discuss this privately? Oh, now you want a private family discussion? I asked. After excluding me from every wedding planning meeting? After talking about me like I was garbage on a phone call you thought I couldn't hear? The crowd pressed closer. This was better than any reality TV show. What phone call? Mrs. Ashford demanded. And that's when I delivered the kill shot that would end Sandra's social climbing forever. The phone call where my daughter referred to me as her trailer trash mother and discussed how she needed to play nice until the old bat croaks so she could inherit my money. The gasp that went through the lobby was audible. Someone's champagne glass hit the marble floor with a crash. Mrs. Ashford's hand flew to her chest in shock. That's not true, Sandra shrieked. But her face had gone from white to purple, and sweat was beading on her forehead despite the air conditioning. Paul also mentioned that you were only tolerating me until you could get both my inheritance and the Ashford connection, I continued, my voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel. Apparently, marrying into a family worth $50 million was worth sacrificing your relationship with the woman who raised you. This is insane, Paul stammered, but his voice cracked on the words. Mr. Ashford's expression had turned glacial. Did you just say you're marrying my son for money? No, that's not. She's lying. She's having memory problems. Sandra was unraveling completely, her carefully constructed social facade crumbling in front of everyone she had hoped to impress. Memory problems? I laughed, a sound sharp enough to cut glass. Sandra, I may be 77, but my memory is perfect. Would you like me to quote the exact conversation? You said, and I quote, "The last thing we need is your trailer trash mother showing up and ruining Olivia's chance with the Ashfords." The crowd was dead silent, except for the subtle sound of people typing on their phones. This was going viral before the ceremony even started. Mrs. Ashford stepped forward, her voice like ice. Young lady, I have never been so disgusted in my life. You excluded your mother, a decorated educator, from your daughter's wedding because you were ashamed of her profession. It wasn't like that. And you discussed inheriting her money like she was already dead? Sandra was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks, her designer dress wilting in the Arizona heat. The very people she had hoped to impress were looking at her like she was something they had scraped off their shoes. "Where is Olivia?" I asked quietly. "In the bridal suite," Marcus Jr. whispered, looking like he wanted to disappear into the marble floor. "I think," said Mr. Ashford, with deadly calm. "We need to have a conversation with the bride before this ceremony proceeds. A young woman should know exactly what kind of family she's marrying into." That's when I nodded to Mr. Carter, who stepped forward with the manila envelope. "Ladies and gentlemen," his attorney's voice carried clearly across the lobby, "I represent Mrs. Linda Watson, and I have here her new last will and testament, executed yesterday and requiring witnesses for legal validity." The crowd pressed closer. Even the country club staff had stopped pretending to work, openly staring at the drama unfolding. Mrs. Watson's estate is valued at approximately $4 million, Mr. Carter announced. As of yesterday, Sandra and Paul have been completely removed as beneficiaries. Sandra's knees actually buckled. Paul had to catch her to keep her from hitting the floor. The primary beneficiary is now the Arizona Teachers Scholarship Fund, with provisions for Olivia Chen contingent upon her maintaining an independent relationship with her grandmother. $4 million? Someone whispered. The poor teacher was a millionaire, and they excluded her from the wedding? Sandra was sobbing openly now, the sound echoing off the marble walls. Her perfect wedding, her social triumph, her financial security, all destroyed in the span of 10 minutes. But I wasn't finished yet. "I'd like to speak with my granddaughter now," I said, my voice cutting through Sandra's sobs. "Absolutely not!" Paul snarled, finally finding his voice. "You've done enough damage." "Actually," Mr. Ashford interrupted, his voice deadly quiet, "I think Olivia deserves to know that her grandmother was excluded from her wedding. Don't you agree, Richard?" He looked at his wife, who nodded grimly. "Marcus," Mrs. Ashford said to her son, "bring Olivia down here immediately." "Mom, maybe we should—" Now, the crowd parted as Marcus Jr. disappeared toward the bridal suite. The silence in the lobby was deafening, except for Sandra's ragged breathing and the distant sound of mariachi music from another event. 3 minutes later, Olivia appeared at the top of the grand staircase in her wedding dress, a vision in white silk and lace. But her face went ashen when she saw me standing in the lobby surrounded by wedding guests. Her parents in various states of emotional collapse, and her new in laws looking like they were attending a funeral instead of a celebration. Grandma Linda? Her voice was small, confused. What's happening? Come down here, sweetheart, I said gently. There's something you need to know. Olivia descended the stairs slowly, her train trailing behind her like spilled cream. When she reached the bottom, she looked around at the hostile faces. The phones recording everything. Her mother's tear-streaked makeup. Olivia, I said, taking her hands in mine, did you know I wasn't invited to your wedding? Her eyes filled with tears immediately. What? That's not. Mom said you were sick. She said you couldn't travel because of your health. The crowd murmured angrily. Another lie exposed. I'm perfectly healthy, darling. Your mother decided I would embarrass the family in front of the Ashfords because I'm just a retired teacher who lives in a trailer. Olivia turned to stare at Sandra, who was still crying, but now looked cornered and desperate. Mom, is this true? Olivia, you don't understand the pressure. Did you lie to me about Grandma being sick? Sandra's silence was answer enough. Olivia turned back to me, her wedding dress rustling. Grandma, I am so sorry. I had no idea. I would never have agreed to this if I had known. I know, sweetheart. That's why I came today. But how can we fix this? The ceremony is supposed to start in 20 minutes. That's when Mr. Ashford stepped forward. Olivia, I think you need to know that your mother also discussed marrying Marcus for our family's money. She called it securing the Ashford connection. Olivia's face went from pale to green. She looked at Marcus Jr., who was staring at his shoes. Marcus, did you know about any of this? I knew your parents seemed excited about our family's financial situation, but I thought that was normal. Mrs. Ashford's voice was like Arctic wind. Normal? Young man, normal people don't exclude grandmothers from weddings and discuss inheritance money like lottery winnings. Olivia was crying now, but not the gentle tears of a bride. These were tears of rage and betrayal. Mom, how could you do this to Grandma? After everything she's done for our family. Everything I did was for you, Sandra wailed. I was trying to protect your future. By lying to me? By hurting the woman who raised you? That's when I made my final move. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, showing Olivia the screen that displayed my investment portfolio. Sweetheart, your mother thought she was protecting your financial future by marrying you into wealth. But you should know that your grandmother isn't the poor woman she pretended I was. I'm worth $4.2 million, dollars, and as of yesterday, it's all going to charity. The lobby erupted in shocked whispers. Olivia stared at the phone screen, her mouth open. Unless, I continued, you choose to have a relationship with me that's independent of your parents' influence, in which case, everything comes to you. Olivia looked around the lobby, at her sobbing mother, her furious new in-laws, the crowd of people recording every moment for social media posterity. Then she did something that surprised everyone. Olivia started laughing, not the hysterical laughter of a breakdown, but the clear, ringing laughter of someone who has just seen through a lie so absurd, it's almost funny. Mom, she said, turning to Sandra with something like pity in her eyes, you excluded my grandmother from my wedding because you thought she was embarrassing. But she's worth more than Marcus's family, isn't she? Sandra's face crumpled completely. And you lied to me about her being sick because you were ashamed of the woman who put you through college, who helped buy your house, who has been supporting our family for years. Olivia, please. No, Olivia's voice was firm. I'm done listening to lies. She turned to the crowd of wedding guests, her white dress blazing under the lobby's crystal chandeliers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry you've all been subjected to this family drama. But I want you to know that my grandmother, Linda Watson, is the most honorable person I know. She spent 52 years teaching children, including many of your own kids and grandkids, at Desert View Middle School. She deserves respect, not shame. The applause started slowly, a few people clapping, then more, until the entire lobby was thundering with approval. Mr. Ashford was beaming. Mrs. Ashford wiped tears from her eyes. Marcus, Olivia said to her groom, I love you, but I can't marry into your family knowing that my parents have disrespected mine. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. She turned to me. Grandma, will you walk me down the aisle? Since my father apparently thinks you're too embarrassing to be seen with us? Paul made a strangled sound of protest, but no one was listening to him anymore. It would be my honor, I said, tears streaming down my face. The ceremony that followed was unlike anything Phoenix society had ever witnessed. Word of the lobby confrontation had spread through the country club like wildfire. Instead of the exclusive, elite gathering Sandra had planned, the wedding became a celebration of family loyalty, triumphing over social pretension. Mr. Ashford, it turned out, was so impressed by my dignity in the face of humiliation that he asked me to sit at the head table with the parents. Mrs. Ashford spent the entire reception telling anyone who would listen about the shameful way educators are treated in modern society. Sandra and Paul sat at a table in the back, largely ignored by guests who had witnessed their public meltdown. The story was already spreading on social media. Phoenix Country Club wedding drama. Daughter excludes. Teacher, mom, loses foreigner's inheritance. But the most beautiful moment came during the father-daughter dance. Olivia had requested a special song, In My Daughter's Eyes, and instead of dancing with Paul, she asked me to join her on the dance floor. As we swayed together in the center of that elegant ballroom, surrounded by Phoenix's elite, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. The pure joy of being valued for who I was, not what I could provide. Grandma, Olivia whispered as we danced, I'm so sorry this happened. Don't be sorry, sweetheart. Sometimes people need to show their true colors before you can see who they really are. What happens now with mom and dad? I looked across the dance floor at Sandra, who was staring at us with a mixture of rage and regret. That's up to them. They can apologize and try to rebuild what they've broken, or they can continue down the path they've chosen. Either way, you and I are going to be just fine. After the reception, Olivia and Marcus left for their honeymoon in Italy. But before they departed, Olivia hugged me tight and whispered, I want to have lunch with you every Sunday when we get back. Just the two of us. I'd love that, I said. 6 months later, that's exactly what we were doing. Sunday lunch at the Arizona Biltmore became our sacred tradition. Olivia would drive down from Scottsdale in her little Honda Civic. She had traded in the BMW her parents bought her, saying she preferred something more authentic. And we would sit on the terrace overlooking Camelback Mountain, talking about everything and nothing. During one of these lunches, about 8 months after the wedding, Olivia brought me an envelope. What's this? I asked. Open it. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a letter from Sandra. My hands trembled as I read. Mom, I know money can't fix what I did, but this is the down payment you gave us for our house. I've been seeing a therapist, and she's helped me understand how ashamed I became of my own background when I started trying to fit in with Paul's wealthy friends. I convinced myself that your simple lifestyle was something to hide rather than something to honor. I was wrong, terribly, horribly wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm trying to become the daughter you deserve to raise. Love, Sandra. I set the letter down and looked out at the desert landscape. The saguaro cacti standing like ancient guardians against the sunset sky. What do you think, Grandma? I think your mother is learning what I tried to teach her 40 years ago, that character matters more than appearance, and that love isn't something you should be ashamed of. Are you going to forgive her? Forgiveness isn't a one-time event, sweetheart. It's a process. Your mother needs to prove that she's changed, not just say it. Over the following months, Sandra began that proof. She volunteered at Desert View Middle School, my old campus, helping in the library and tutoring struggling students. She started attending community college board meetings, advocating for better funding for public education. She even wrote a letter to the Phoenix newspaper about the importance of respecting teachers. Paul, on the other hand, never apologized. Their marriage crumbled under the weight of social ostracism and financial pressure. The Scottsdale elite had witnessed his greed and callousness at the wedding, and Phoenix society has a long memory for public humiliation. His real estate business suffered as clients quietly took their money elsewhere. Sandra moved into a modest apartment in Tempe and got a job as a school administrator. It was the first time she had worked outside the home in 20 years, and I could see both the struggle and the pride in her face when she talked about her new independence. I forgot what it felt like to earn something myself, she told me during our first tentative coffee meeting in over a year. All those years of living off Paul's money and your generosity. I lost myself somewhere along the way. The viral video of the wedding confrontation had been viewed over 2 million times on various social media platforms. Comments poured in from all over the world. Teachers sharing their own stories of being disrespected by family members. Adult children apologizing to parents they had taken for granted. Elderly people finding the courage to stand up for themselves. I became something of an accidental internet celebrity, featured in articles about ageism and family respect. The Arizona Education Association asked me to speak at their annual conference about dignity in the teaching profession. Several universities invited me to address their education students about the lifelong value of their chosen career. But the most meaningful recognition came from an unexpected source. Marcus Ashford Sr. established the Linda Watson Teaching Excellence Scholarship at Arizona State University, providing full tuition for students from low-income families who wanted to become educators. Mrs. Watson, he said at the scholarship announcement ceremony, you reminded us all that true class has nothing to do with money and everything to do with character. Standing there in ASU's education building, surrounded by future teachers who would go on to shape young minds, I felt the deepest satisfaction of my 78 years. I had spent my entire career teaching lessons about literature, grammar, and writing. But the most important lesson I ever taught happened in a country club lobby in front of Phoenix's elite. That respect is earned through character, not inherited through wealth. As I sit here today in my small trailer in Tucson, looking out at the Sonoran Desert where the saguaro cacti stand tall against the endless sky, I want to share something with you that took me 78 years to fully understand. Your worth is not determined by other people's opinion of you. For too many years, I allowed Sandra's embarrassment about my modest lifestyle to make me feel small. I let her shame about my profession, teaching, one of the most honorable callings in the world, convince me that I was somehow lacking. I accepted her narrative that love meant staying quiet when you're being mistreated, that family harmony was worth sacrificing your dignity. I was wrong. Love without respect is not love at all. It's manipulation, dressed up in pretty words and hollow gestures. Real love celebrates who you are, not who someone thinks you should become. Real family lifts you up, especially in front of others, instead of hiding you away like a shameful secret. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you're the parent who has given everything only to be treated like a burden, if you're the grandparent who gets invited to family dinners only when money is needed, if you're the elderly person whose children discuss your inheritance like you're already dead, please hear this. You have the power to change your story. It doesn't matter if you're 60, 70, 80, or 90 years old. It's never too late to demand the respect you deserve. It's never too late to walk away from people who diminish your light, even if they share your DNA. It's never too late to write a new will, set new boundaries, or find new people who value you for who you are, not what you can provide. The video of my confrontation at that wedding has been viewed millions of times, and the comments break my heart and fill me with hope in equal measure. Heartbroken because so many of you are living versions of my story, being taken for granted, being hidden away, being treated like ATM machines with expiration dates. But hopeful because you're finding the courage to speak up, to stand up, to value yourselves the way you should have been, valued all along. To the teachers watching this, you are heroes. Every single day, you shape the future of our world. Don't let anyone, not politicians, not parents, not even your own family members, convince you that your profession is anything less than noble. You deserve respect, support, and gratitude, not shame or apology. To the adult children who might be watching this with uncomfortable recognition, it's not too late to change. Call your parents, visit your grandparents, ask them about their lives, their dreams, their stories. Stop being embarrassed by their modest homes, their practical clothes, their simple pleasures. Start being proud of the people who sacrificed to give you the life you have. And to everyone who has ever felt invisible, overlooked, or taken for granted, you matter. Your experiences matter. Your feelings matter. You don't have to accept crumbs of affection from people who should be giving you full meals of love and respect. The night after Olivia's wedding, I sat in my trailer watching the sunset paint the desert sky in shades of gold and orange, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: peace. Not because I had gotten revenge on Sandra and Paul. Revenge is empty and bitter. But because I had finally stood up for the woman I had always been, but had forgotten how to defend. That woman was worth defending, and so are you. If my story has touched you, please share it. Not because I want to be internet famous at 78 years old, but because there are millions of people out there who need to hear that their dignity matters, that their worth isn't negotiable, and that It's never too late to teach the people around you how you deserve to be treated. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more stories about finding your voice, demanding your worth, and discovering that sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you were born into. Remember, real family doesn't abandon you at airports. Real family doesn't hide you from weddings. Real family lifts you up, celebrates your accomplishments, and treats you with the love and respect you've earned through a lifetime of giving. You deserve that kind of family. And if you don't have it, it's never too late to find it.